Much like the girlfriend in that famous meme that we used for today's thumbnail, Israel is unhappy with recent changes in U.S. policy towards it. And much like that girlfriend in that meme, if we take it to mean what I think it's meant to mean, although I think it might be unfair to the guy who's just, looking in appreciation. Uh, this is an opportunity for Israel, and Israel should see it as such once it gets over its heartbreak over this recent change in U.S. policy. It's an opportunity on many different levels. It's not the ideal scenario, but from scenarios that are far from ideal, good things have come. So we're gonna talk about that today. Welcome to the Daily Objective. This is a solo episode, which is not my forte, so bear with me, and it'll be probably a slightly shorter episode than usual and a bit slower as I don't have somebody to talk while I'm collecting my thoughts and reading the chat. Um, so to think of this as an opportunity, one of the things we need to remember is what Israel actually is, and especially what it is outside of the context that we're currently looking at it since October 7th. Remember, Israel is a country that was founded, surrounded by enemies who wanted to destroy it from day one, from before day one, from before Israel was actually declared its independence. It was the Jews in Israel were attacked by Arabs, by British, by everybody who was there, and they started a country, they declared independence, then that country, the war was declared on it from surrounding armies with what seemed to be no chance of survival, and yet they won that war. They expanded territorially, and Israel today is consistently the country with the second highest number of patents registered uh, overall, the highest per capita and the second highest overall number of patents. This is a country of a population of less than 10 million. That's astonishing. And it's astonishing considering that it is also, again, surrounded by enemies, um, and under constant threat of annihilation. So this kind of innovative, life-affirming thinking could be applied here in this situation that Israel didn't want to find itself in, but is finding itself in, which is potentially being completely abandoned by its most important ally and the country you would want most as your ally if you were going to pick one. Um, some of the opportunities involve manufacturing its own weapons. Now, Israel does that to some extent, but obviously not enough to a great extent. This is something that Israelis are already, they're already looking into. They've already realized that this is an important thing for Israel to do. Now, other opportunities include diplomatic opportunities. There are countries that are not as powerful as America, but have actually experienced the totalitarianism, not exactly the same totalitarianism that Israel is fighting against, but some form of totalitarianism. So if you look at the countries who voted with Israel yesterday against Palestinian statehood in the United Nations General Assembly, now the U.S. was one of those countries, but one that we found particularly exciting on this channel since October 7th is the Czech Republic. This is a country that even when there was no chance against Russia, they still fought back against the Soviet Union and against that form of totalitarianism. They understand it, I think, better than even most former Soviet countries. And there's opportunity there. There's already also opportunity within the U.S. Now, we've talked about the upcoming U.S. elections, the choices Americans are faced with. The two main candidates are, I think, terrible. They the third party candidate is possibly worse. And it's difficult to see what positive you can find there, but there are many voices in America that are actually criticizing Biden. There are people in his party, there are people in the Republican Party who, again, if Trump wins, he will have to work with, who are not okay with Biden's current policy. If you saw the speech by Lindsey Graham, or not the speech, the when he was asking questions of Austin, the U.S. Defense Secretary. I mean, that was so beautifully said, and he has influence and will have influence on the current president, but more so on the future president if Trump wins. Now, I've seen reports. I've seen two conflicting reports today about Trump's approach to Nikki Haley. One claiming that he is seriously considering having her as his running mate, which would be very surprising considering the campaign they ran against each other. But according to that report, they are both, they're both considering it as a very likely scenario. There was another one that said that they haven't spoken in months, and yeah, that's not that's not an option. Now, if Haley is vice president, I don't know how much influence she will have on Trump, but she would certainly want to have some influence, and it will be positive, I think, across the board. Certainly on foreign policy. His the thing on foreign policy that scares me most about Trump isn't his Israel policy; it's his Ukraine policy, and Nikki Haley is very much on the opposite side. That could be a positive. And again, she's also more pro-Israel than he is. So there's an opportunity there. Let's see if that happens. And again, what Israel should do in that context is look at those possibilities. Say to Biden, okay, it's over. We get it. We're moving on. And I think that'll put pressure on Biden. It already is putting pressure on Biden from within his party, but I think it'll put pressure on him, electorally, and could change his policies, but could certainly influence what Trump will do if he wins. And I will let you know what I think, what my issue is with Kennedy after I take a sip of water. So, first of all, thank you, Alexis, for the super chat. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Where do I begin? I mean, I can begin with the only positive thing, which is he seems to be the most pro-Israel of the candidates, of the presidential nominees. Yeah, yeah, that is true. Now, in terms of every other policy he has, this guy is an anti-vaxxer, and not just when it comes to COVID. He is an across-the-board anti-vaxxer. He's against vaccines pretty much as such. He's a lifelong environmentalist. Environmentalism internally is potentially the biggest threat there is to freedom going forward. If policies are already bad on energy, and here in Britain, I think more than many places, certainly more than the U.S., we are paying the price for that, and we've you would think we'd have learned our lesson, but I think it might have to get much worse before we do learn our lesson. He's a conspiracy theorist again, not with one conspiracy or another, but seemingly across the board. And yeah, I don't see. Yeah, El Rito put in much, yeah, much less subtly, but valid way. RFK is freaking insane. So yeah, I think if it came down to him or either Biden or Trump, I would probably choose the latter. Um, but it won't. So I don't think we're gonna get to that. I think it will be Biden or Trump. And again, I think Israel should look at those opportunities, should strengthen its alliances within America, within other countries, where it's the leadership, then with the leadership, where it's other voices, then with them. Those exist. They may not be blocking the roads every weekend, and they may not be, blocking university and college campuses all over America and all over other countries, but they are out there, and it's interesting to see. And I'm first of all, thank you, Ori, for the super chat. I I'm particularly interested, and we've talked about this on the channel, in what is going to happen today at the Eurovision Song Contest. So again, for those of you who are not in Europe and don't know what Eurovision is, it's a song contest which is organized by the European Broadcasting Union, a union of government television channels, which every country has in Europe. It's a song contest where every country is represented. You vote for a country, supposedly based on their song, but historically it's always very political, and it's more political this year than it ever has been because Israel is participating. Now, Israel always participates, but for some reason, after what Hamas did on October 7th, many people want to express their support for Hamas, can't live with the fact that an Israeli and a Jew is participating in this competition. And this has become major news, not just for people who follow the Eurovision, but major news in Europe, in many places in Europe. This competition this year is taking place in Sweden. They won last year, so they're hosting this year, and it's in the city of Malmo, which is uh, a city with a very large Muslim population, very one of the most anti-Semitic places in Europe. Tens of thousands of people are out on the streets protesting against the very fact that Israel is participating. The Israeli singer Eden Golan, who's 20 years old, was told she can't leave her hotel unless she's going to rehearsals or to the competition. When she is going to rehearsals or to the competition, this happened with the semifinal on Thursday. It's happening with the final today. She has to be escorted by 100 police officers because the mob will lynch her for being an Israeli Jew if she if they get the chance to do so. When she sang in the rehearsals and when the ones where audience was allowed in, and when she sang in the semifinal, people were booing. Much of the audience was booing her. When she participated in the press conference after the semifinal, having qualified for the final, she got bullied by journalists and by other competitors on the who were on the panel. There's a video. If you're following me on Twitter at Razi Ginzberg, you can see I retweeted a video of the Greek singer making all sorts of faces, yawning, doing like going to sleep on the table while the Israeli was speaking. There was a question by a journalist asking her, don't you think you're putting the other competitors at risk by being here? Which is a shocking question, because the people putting people at risk are the pro-terrorist protesters who are willing and happy to act like the people they support. But that question was asked. The moderator of the press conference said, "You don't have to answer it if you don't want to." And the Dutch singer said, "Why not?" He spoke up. Now that Dutch singer has since been disqualified from the competition for some sort of violent attack against somebody. So yeah, these people follow their values very consistently. They support That guy also supports Russia, and he supports the Palestinians, and he's also a violent person. And the way this competition, so one of the outcomes of the fact that this the Israeli singer is in this situation is that people seemingly voted in the semifinal for Israel because they are not okay with this and they don't want to be associated with that. They don't want the Europe where a Jew walks into your town and all of Europe, rises up against him in protest, or her in this case. And so Israel rose in betting on betting sites. Israel rose to second, most likely to win. And I think, yeah, Susie says in the chat, if she wins, it will be epic. I think it'll be a very interesting night, even if you are not a Eurovision fan, which I could understand. The songs are usually not that great. It'll be interesting to watch, I think, for several reasons. One is the fact that the protests of other singers that were not allowed throughout the rehearsals and the semifinal. are not allowed in the final as well, but they might allow themselves to do something once nobody can stop them anymore. Also, if Israel wins, the winner gets to sing their song again. And I wonder if, some sort of protest will happen, as in people running on stage. There's a lot of things that can happen there. And I do expect that because there are decent people in Europe who don't want to go back to 1930s Germany, I do expect Israel to do well, and I would be surprised if Israel doesn't win the popular vote. Now, there's the popular vote element and the judges element. The judges might, I don't know who they are, they might decide to overrule the popular vote. So I'm not that sure that Israel will win, but it's going to be interesting. And we've spoken on this channel about how the slightest of headlines of things that might not have happened or probably didn't happen have changed policy. We talked about this on this channel when there was the bombing of the aid convoy in Gaza. And before the facts came out, some countries that had suspended their support for UNRWA renewed their support over that. Now they suspended it, also not in a very serious manner, and again, and also because of headlines. Um, so countries seem to follow the latest headline with policies, and policies in the case of UNRWA, that are tens of millions of dollars worth per country of policies. So I wonder to what extent some European leaders who, leaders are very rarely principled people, so how many of them will look at this and say, hang on, maybe in my country, not everybody is as pro-terrorist as the loudest voices make it seem, and maybe I should not be as pro-terrorist as I am. And again, I doubt it, but this is actually a moment where, I will be voting in the Eurovision Song Contest. In this country, I encourage people who are in countries where they can vote to vote. It's going to be particularly interesting if in the most anti-Semitic or one of the most anti-Semitic places in Europe, with tens of thousands of protesters, with everybody against her because she is a Jew from Israel. If Eden Golan wins this competition, it'll be a very nice, yeah. Robin says that's wishful thinking. Yes, but it's based on knowing that politicians don't have a backbone, which is, usually it's always a bad thing, but it can sometimes lead them to make decisions that they wouldn't, that wouldn't be as bad as most of the decisions that they make. Thank you, Akira, for the super chat. Akira says support Razi's solo episodes. I appreciate that. I hope there won't be many in the future. This is, as I said, not my forte. Um, Thank you, Larisetto, for the super chat. Larisetto says continued Jewish emancipation is at stake. Um, yeah, I mean, look, in part, this is we've talked about how this people are pro-Israel as the U.S. was when Israel gets attacked and when Israelis get killed, and they become less pro-Israel when Jews start defending themselves. So, and which unfortunately for those people, Jews are now doing, not just in Israel where they're armed and they can fight back, but also we've seen it on college campuses. We see that Jews are not ready to let those who want to get rid of them that easily. And yeah, let's see if Israel again. Whenever I say there's an opportunity, I have to remind myself that the Prime Minister of Israel is Benjamin Netanyahu, who, speaking of leaders without a backbone, he is the leader of those leaders. But also, if he has no U.S. to pander to anymore, and there's reports that the the opposition party that joined the coalition after October 7th, led by Gantz, who is leading in the polls, is about to leave the coalition. Um, there's pressure on Netanyahu will be from within his coalition, where he is the most left wing, if we want to call it that, in the at least when it comes to how to execute the war. So yeah, again, it's not good when somebody's spineless, but if the pressure makes him change things, there's reports that there's less humanitarian aid going in now to Gaza, and that's in part because Israel took over the crossing with Rafah, and Egypt doesn't want to send humanitarian aid in anymore. But there's also calls from within Netanyahu's government that if the U.S. doesn't send the weapons shipment, Israel should stop or at least reduce the humanitarian aid to Gaza. There's an opportunity here in the short run to do what's right in this war and start fighting it properly with the goal of eliminating Hamas and hopefully making Palestinians not want to rise up again and attempt again to kill Jews, uh, possibly to do the right thing in Lebanon, which Hezbollah is killing Israelis, but firing at Israel daily and killing not as many as they would have because the north is pretty much has been evacuated because of them. And yeah, if Israel takes that opportunity, I think that you'll see more and more support in the world for Israel. You'll still see the masses go on the street, even more angry than usual. But I think you will see people respecting the fact that Israel doesn't let other countries dictate to it how it's going to defend itself. Thank you, Andreo, for the very generous super chat. Andreo says, stunning song. Yeah, that's another thing. This song is actually a very good song, and it's not the song that Israel originally submitted. This song is called Hurricane. The original song was October Rain, and it had very clear references to what happened on October 7th. The European Broadcasting Union decided that it was too political and that Israel won't be allowed to participate if it sends that song. So it has changed, and yeah, this and of course, again, this song, people in the audience know this stuff. They know that this song is in reference to October 7th. They are booing the Israeli Jewish singer who is singing about the slaughter of people in her country. And this is a nice opportunity without going out and risking your life fighting protesters to actually show support for Israel. Again, I don't think this is the most important thing in the world, but it'll be an interesting show of support. And I think Israel actually does need any such show of support at the moment, and it would be helpful. It's not going to change Biden's policy again, as who was it? Robin, I think, said it's wishful thinking to think it'll change any European policy, but or the policy of any European country. But it will send a signal to politicians that yeah, it's not just those who shout the loudest who have views on things. Um, I think that's so. Let's hope that this is that there is a way forward that is actually positive and perhaps some positive, even in the negative of the U.S. Abandoning Israel and siding as clearly as possible, I would say, with Hamas. Certainly, in recent days, with the weapons shipment being withheld and with the demands that Israel agreed to a deal when Hamas puts one on the table. And yeah, we will obviously one way or another keep covering it. And I again encourage people to watch the Eurovision today, and I even more so encourage people to support ARC UK. Thank you for those who did so in the super chat. We are back here tomorrow with a daily objective, and Tuesday we are launching the Atlas Shrugged Book Club. If you want to talk about, you know. Uh, how ideas can actually change the world. You should read that book, and you should, of course, become a member and join that book club. That is members only. Hopefully, we will see you there. Robin, I think you do have to download the app, or actually, there might be a telephone number if you want. That's for voting for the Eurovision, but you can always delete it afterwards. Um, until next year when an Israeli gets booed at the competition. All right. We made it all the way to 6, even though we started a bit late. Thanks everybody for joining. We will be back with the Daily Objective tomorrow, which will, I very much hope, not be a solo episode. We'll see you then.